Hello and welcome to The Sofa here at the World Water Week in Stockholm. My name is Eric Paglia. And in this session, we'll hear from 4 passionate heritage professionals who will explain how the past and traditional knowledge can help engineer the future of water. And joining me here on The Sofa, we have Dr. Shadia Toukan, Director of the Arab Regional Center for World Heritage under the auspices of UNESCO Bahrain. We have Dr. Tino Mager, researcher at the Center for Global Heritage and Development at the Technical University of Delft. We have Nupur Protikana, Secretary General of the International Scientific Committee for Cultural Landscapes at the International Council on Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS. And Dr. Niels Alberg, President of ICOMOS Sweden. Welcome to The Sofa. Very nice to have you all here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Nupur, I see that your organizations are participating for the first time at the World Water Week. What brings you here this year?
So Eric, I've been coming here for the last 2 years. I live in Stockholm, and I found that the conversation has been about water, hygiene. It's been about technology. It's been about science. It's been about a lot of legal and administrative frameworks. I feel, where are the actors? The people who are playing the central role. The people, the communities. So we at ICOMOS were advisors with also ARC WHC. We are advisors to World Heritage on natural and cultural heritage, and we feel that we need to bring people and their stories to the fore at the World Water Week, and to say that they have to play a central role if we need to see a difference being made on ground.
Okay. Now, Niels, why do you think the cultural heritage has been absent from the discussion on water management, and why should it be included?
Well, all through history and all over the world, water has been a decisive factor for human life, for development, for society, development of society. And for thousands of years we managed water and water resources and developed different solutions, technical solutions, way of dealing with all those things. And of course there's a living knowledge there, and we have to take care of that. We have to use that in the best way. And today, of course, combining with modern technology and research, I think. And another reason is that traditional use of water is so central to people's identity, to the identity of the society and social life, traditions, beliefs, and so on. And it's really a concern of all of us. And a year like this, when the theme is water for society, including all, well, that's really where the heritage belongs, I think. It's certainly very, very relevant this year. The cultural heritage concerns all, and is also a very good way of reaching out to people, to normal people, to the general public, and not only the experts and the decision makers and the industry. And another thing is, of course, that heritage is part of the legislation all over the world, the protection, the planning legislation. And if you don't include the heritage from the beginning, you run into problems. You lose time. You get extra costs. So just for efficiency, I think it's needed. And we talk a lot about sustainable development. Well, what's that? I would say that is really housekeeping, using the existing resources in the best way. And the existing resources, well, that's the heritage. That's what we got here. And the heritage should be the starting point in sustainable development, to identify what are these values, what are these resources, material resources, social resources, cultural, not least cultural resources, and of course the economic part of it as well. And then you can go on and find out what is the best use of this. So this kind of holistic view is really needed, that the heritage should be included, I think, when we talk about water management.
Now, Shadia, why do you think that it's important to include cultural heritage in water management discussions?
Thank you for the question, because I think it's important. We've been discussing this between us, all the organizations who are actually involved in the implementation of water heritage and general heritage preservation and protection. And we felt that the water heritage is something which is vital for humanity. And as our friend Niels was just saying, I mean, the humankind has this very well established and recorded relationship with water, not only just for survival, but also for economic prosperity, for social integrity, and also this is represented, as you can see, all over the world, all over the globe. You can see not only archaeological remains of ancient water system, you have actually still functioning water system that has been operating for millennia and at least centuries old in many countries, in Africa, in Asia, in Arab countries, in South America, and so on. So it is not only a luxury or something which is an art, a thing only. It is actually vital for the survival and the continuity and the sustainability of human life. And when we hear about, you know, all the water kind of water meetings like the one we have here in Stockholm for many years, we think that there is a lot to be learned from the past. And before we had the sophisticated technical knowledge and you know, all the information that is available now, we could see how people have themselves invented, created, and taken a lot of pain in trying to maintain and protect their scarce resources for the benefit of humanity. So before, when we talk about economic prosperity, we talk about social interaction, and leaving behind these lessons that we can learn from, and this is how they sustain development before the phrase was coined, you know, for generations and for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So I agree with him, and the four of us represent organizations and institutions that are interested in bringing this lesson forward so it can be kind of used and probably discussed and see how it can be beneficial.
What do you mean more precisely by water heritage? Perhaps you can give us some examples from around the world, you and your colleagues.
Yeah, well, water heritage, according to water heritage is considered mainly as cultural and urban landscape within UNESCO's 1972 Convention for the Protection of Cultural and Natural Heritage. It is quite important to just point out that water heritage combine both the culture and the nature. There is the first interlinkages between nature and cultural heritage, and it can be seen, and it's evident from the very sophisticated physical and engineering system that has been devised and has been developed and maintained for the provision and protection of the water resources for economic development, and also the policies and regulations, management policies, distribution policies that has been designed and implemented by authorities over generations and the communities to ensure, and that is very important, the fair and equitable distribution for all. As for examples, I work in the Arab region, and as you know, the Arab region, we have very difficult weather conditions. We suffer, or for generations, civilizations in the old times have suffered and faced challenges because of the hot weather, high temperatures. You have dry and arid lands and very limited resources. But if you look at what's happening in Saharas and deserts in Arabia, whether we're talking about the Middle East, the Gulf area, and also North Africa, you could see the ingenuity and the developed systems and technology with very limited resources, but with determination to survive and to prosper and to leave behind examples and lessons to be learned from others and for the future sustainability of the country and the community. I would mention quickly, because there are so many examples, we don't have time now to mention them globally, but if we go to Arabia, you'll be surprised to know, I mean, you may not be surprised, but many people wouldn't know that you have all these slush oases in Saudi Arabia. You have these fantastic and very sophisticated water channels in Oman where they are still functioning. There are 3,000 of them. And they are based on utilizing underground water aquifers for the benefit of farming and agriculture. You go to Jordan, where you have one of the most sophisticated ancient water system in Petra, and we all know Petra, it's Nabatean capital and pre-Roman. You have examples in Yemen where you have the sophisticated dams that are built to maintain the resources and also to protect community from floods, from storms, and inclement weather conditions. In Palestine, you had examples where you can supply water for kilometers, as we have between Bethlehem and Jerusalem, which functioned for many, many centuries, and until recently it's not working for the last few decades. And the most ancient urban settlement in the world, in Jericho, you have more than 10,000 years old channels. And it is important that these examples are known and are the details and the technicalities of the engineering and the technical effort that has been put into this, and why many of it still survive today. It is something that we can learn from and go back to the community, as Nils was saying, and we're discussing between us. This is the time for the community to participate in this discussion. It shouldn't be just left to scientists and engineers, and with all due respect, of course we need them, rely on them. But we have to go back to the community, and you can see some examples here in this forum. You can see in India and other countries what they have done in the past and how they are continuing the past all through the years and for the future generations.
Well, perhaps we can hear some of the other examples from your colleagues here.
So I'll talk about traditional societies and especially India. Now, in India, we worship water. So we have our goddesses named after water. We worship with water, you know. So when we go to our temples or our mosques or our churches, there is water as an element of worship. We worship within water. So our, religious ablutions within rivers and tanks is. So I ask the question, if it's a culture which is so deeply respectful of nature, especially water, why is it a country which is facing so much water stress today? Why is it a country which has all the grey circles in each of these rooms in the Water Week and elsewhere in other conversations in the world? You know, where has that disconnect between people worshipping water and the situation on ground with the serious scarcity, pollution, or the climate events and, having all of this abundance of flooding and all of that happening in India? Why are we not able to cope with it? And the question to address, if we really want to see a change on ground, is what is the reason for this disconnect? The people are the same, their customs and traditions remain. Why are they not able to see the connection between their physical environment, what they are brought up, their inherent water wisdom, right? I'll tell you a short story, We all know, that each of our historic cities in India has different water systems. It could be a river system, it could be tanks, it could be step wells. So I was walking around in the city of Bhubaneswar, in the Ekamra Kshetra, doing some work on the temple tanks and the historic tanks there. And there was a particular tank, Godi Pokhri, that I couldn't find. Now, I'm a little literate in Sanskrit, a little literate in Hindi, and I know pokhar means water. So I found this guy cycling down, and I'd already been circulating that area for a half an hour. And so I asked him, we couldn't speak the same language, and I said, where is the poker? Like, I just said poker, Godi Pokri. And the guy looked at me and he pointed in a direction. I literally had to walk between two houses to reach this beautiful tank, which was completely overtaken by urbanization. People were building over it. But the name and the wisdom of what the name meant had remained in our communication. So if we could do it 8,000 years back in the Indus Valley civilization, talk about drainage and talk about irrigation, you know, we are the country and the societies that should be leaders in this. Why we are where we are is because of this belief that someone else will come and do it for us. Not that we as a community are empowered to look after our own water resources. So
maybe just a quick example from Europe, the Netherlands. Large parts of the country are below sea level, and they could not be used if there would not be a very well elaborated management system for the water. So centuries ago, people started draining these areas. They started pumping via windmills water from the lowest point into canals, into higher canals, until it reached sea level and until they could drain the water. So this was not only a very well elaborated advanced technology, but it also required a very advanced management and administrative system. And over the centuries, these systems were adapted to the current situations, and they're still working nowadays. So if you go to the Netherlands, if you enjoy the country, the countryside, you can remind yourself that this system is working or is in place since a lot of centuries, and it's now merging with modern technology, and it combines the country, the usage of the country with a traditional, with a heritage technique.
So these modern, large-scale technological systems are outgrowths of traditional water heritage in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I see there's a connection between these techniques that we apply nowadays, and they come from somewhere. So, and we should always respect from where they come. We should see the connection. We should see what proved to be sustainable for a very long time. And in many examples, you can see the techniques are just applied like out of nothing. And after a couple of years, this causes problems. And you see, if you don't look at where it's coming from, we might get lost somewhere on the track.
And Nupur, how can heritage inspire today's innovators on water to meet the challenges of climate change and to fulfill the ambitious goals of the Sustainable Development Goals?
So I'll start with a little quip. You know, most chefs, if you interview them, they will tell you that their recipes are a twist on their grandma's traditional soup or cake or, you know, the pilaf or something. And I've always looked at that and thought, if every industry today is getting it, they're getting that there is so much to learn from the past. There is so much to learn from what has already happened, the mistakes that have already taken place, the learnings that have already are already there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to start afresh. Why is the sector in water, urbanism, placemaking, not being able, city making, not being able to employ and understand and learn from the fact that we had cities before, they were aesthetically pleasing, they were working, because you know you only had limited resources, so they had to work, and they were livable, they were sustainable. All the terminologies that we're using today, like Shadia just said, they were all prevalent in those places, in those cities. So if we were to just pause and say that what are those ingredients that were there in those places, those cities, why were the communities so deeply entrenched, invested in what they had around them, right? So innovation today is being spoken about as though the starting point is science and technology. I would say science and technology are the means of adjusting, reappropriating, working with what people hold most dear. And what do people hold most dear? We have to ask, because we are always telling them what is important. What do they think is important? Their festivals, their customs, their traditions, their religious structures, you know, their tanks, their water, all of that is important. And if our innovation would pause, sow the seed in our education institutions and our education systems amongst our youth and our children, There is no way a Chennai disaster could happen. There is no way that the tanks of Bangalore would look the way they look. There is no way Ganga cleaning would be such a humongous task. It wouldn't be, because people are at the forefront. They know that if they don't do that, they are impacted. The government is only an actor in the whole thing. They're not the end-all and be-all of taking care of it's not their prime responsibility to only take care of people. People have to take care of what they hold dear. And how do we make this connect on what people hold dear? How do we sow the seeds of innovation within or from heritage, so that we have a pulse on the past while we are designing our future? That's really where we all have to work together in all the water weeks, and make a difference together.
I think we have to question and challenge our understanding of heritage. Heritage is not only something historical, something from the past that is fragile and that needs to be preserved. It's not only an obstacle for planning. No, it is the richest source of experience and knowledge that we have. We can look at things that prove to be sustainable for centuries, and we can investigate why these things were sustainable for a really long time. And if we make use of this, if we merge this rich treasure of knowledge and wisdom with modern and contemporary techniques, we can tackle with the issues of the present and prepare for a better future.
It seems that it's clear that increased cooperation is needed to include water heritage and traditional knowledge in the wider water management discussion that we've been having here at the World Water Week. So Tino, how do you and your fellow heritage experts here on the sofa intend to contribute to this?
Well, this is it again starts with the Netherlands. I just mentioned there's a close connection to water and water site, and ICOMOS, the International Council on Monuments and Sites of the Netherlands, a couple of years ago started an initiative, started to focus on this topic, on water-related heritage, and to promote water-related heritage into the water world. So there have been a couple of conferences, book publications, meetings and dialogue sessions so far, and the idea is to bring people, global players, organizations of the heritage world in dialogue, in discussion with people from the water world, the planning sector, technology sector. And now along this course there are a couple of organizations that are supporting us. For example, the International Water Association, the International Council for Irrigation and Drainage, the International Committee for the Conservation of Industrial Heritage. Now we are at the point to get an international scientific committee established within ICOMOS, and then we hope once we have this committee established, the whole thing institutionalized, we can go on and we are more visible, and we can promote water-related heritage. We can continue this dialogue between the heritage and the water world, give best practice examples of how water can be a contributor, how water-related heritage can be a contributor to a better future, and we can also deepen our research in water-related heritage. Mm-hmm.
Would you like to follow up on that?
Well, yes, I'd just like to say that I think ICOMOS is the obvious partner, because ICOMOS is the only worldwide expert organization, professional organization for the cultural heritage. And it functions as the advisor on the World Heritage List, where we do have a lot of sites which are water related, and the cultural heritage in general. So that's very important, I think. And we also work within the UN, wider UN system, and a lot in international global cooperation on sustainable development, human rights, the Agenda 2030 and that sort of thing. And within ICOMOS we do have all sorts of professionals that in any way relate to the cultural heritage. There are more than 100 national committees across the world, and there are 28 international scientific committees on various items. And as you heard, there is one new coming on the way that is devoted to water and heritage. So I think we have something to offer here. We do have a very good network that could combine much more with the water system.
We've got about a minute left or so. I'd like to hear what your visions are for the future now, based upon this really fascinating discussion we've had here today.
So, like Niels mentioned about ICOMOS, so ICOMOS is also collaborating with IUCN in a big way, because now our vision is to go holistic and holistically approach this water issue. So I think that while we already have connections with IUCN, we are here in the Water Week. We expect to have many, many more connections. We expect to play a vital role on water, using traditional water wisdom, looking at nature, culture, and many, many other facets to this. And we hope to be back with many, many more of us to make this impact.
Okay, well, I'm very happy that water heritage has finally been represented here at the World Water Week in Stockholm. So thank you very much for joining us here today on the sofa and explaining what this is all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. It was wonderful being here.
And thanks for watching here on the sofa. Stay tuned for more sessions throughout the World Water Week.